Hey, this is Jason from Nowhere Bounded. Thank you so much for tuning into this production by Podgility. The last episode was all a recap of my Fast and Furious days in Bangkok. Since then, I had a little bit of movement. But before we get into that, I want to thank my very first subscriber of the show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to thank all the people who have liked, shared, and tuned in. Continuing this journey is only possible with your support. You'll be happy to note that I got my laptop back and I'm ready to rock and roll for as long as you're with me. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's show. Nowhere Bounded. Let's go. So after I left the Bangkok metropolitan area with over 10 million people, I traveled over 690 kilometers or over 400 miles for my Imperial System audience north to a town called Chiang Mai, which, according to a 2019 census survey, has close to 130,000 people. A little bit of a difference. So when I landed and got off the plane, the first words I wrote down were hotter than Bangkok. It was also a lot quieter too. It reminded me of a suburb or a small city back in the US, which was opposite of what I was looking for after the excitement of a single night of clubs in Bangkok. I'm telling you, it only took a single night. The quietness in Chiang Mai made me feel an immediate, oh no, what did I do? After spending the first few days in a whirlwind of stimulation, it seemed clear that I would need to get creative in my storytelling expectations. I mean, even the taxi driver took me to the wrong address, y'all. I was concerned. He was like, "You good?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll figure it out." And then I walked down the side street trying to look for a photo that matched the description of the house on the app. Luckily, a store owner realized that I was lost and stopped to talk to me. And then she called over another person that she knew. And then they were confused together, pointing in opposite directions of where I should go. I eventually figured out how to get my GPS to redirect me. So I thanked them and began walking in the heat with a dying phone, 2 backpacks, and a bit of dread. After about 10 more minutes of walking and going back and forth up a single street, I found the Coca-Cola sign on the side of the restaurant that the image was using as a reference. I made it. Swadika. It means hello. I was greeted by the person who cleaned my room to accommodate my early arrival, and the presenting ornament instructed me that there was water for my stay and that everything was set. I was so surprised that there was a whole 12-pack of water in the room. It was an extremely significant event because comparable to Bangkok, where I only got 2 bottles, this felt like I was water rich. By that time in the trip, I was in a routine to either buy enough water to last about 2 days, or I included water errands in my daily routine. In addition to feeling water rich, the 12-pack also let it sink in that I scheduled myself to be in that slower town for 3 weeks. When I booked my first few legs of the travel after doing a day or two of research while still in the US, I booked the first month's travel so that I didn't have to worry about making plans while I was getting my footing, and because I knew it would be cheaper. Honestly, I thought a few weeks of quietness was appealing after having nonstop movement for the last few years of my life. Plus, and this is probably the bigger plus, I learned that there was a lot of digital nomad in the area, which sparked my interest. I was kind of thinking, what could I learn from their insight? Could I make it in the digital nomad space with just 3 weeks of rubbing shoulders? It may sound crazy, but crazier things have happened. All right, but let's be honest. This is Nowhere Bounded. There are 2 sides of that coin. I spent the first hour settling into the air-conditioned room, charging my phone, and using the Wi-Fi to save a few places on my GPS. By that time, I was starving. And the first food place I went to was called PJ Coffee and Food. Shout out, PJ, if you're listening. The walking directions took about 20 minutes from where I stayed and went straight through the moat surrounded Old Town. On my walk to PJ's, I noticed that unlike Bangkok, when the light turned red for the oncoming traffic, most, if not all, the oncoming vehicles stopped. It's a wild thing, but they actually stopped. Bangkok reminded me of the old PlayStation game Frogger. And part of the reason I decided to go to PJ's was because the price was right and it had some of the best reviews. When I got there, it had such a cool outdoor patio vibe. The host was chill. The fans were on. And there was R&B music playing in the background. What? Although I was already hot, I ordered a hot latte in their pad thai. Yo, let me tell you, their pad thai is by far the best I've had since being in Thailand. One of the reviews said it was the best pad thai in Chiang Mai, but honestly, I think it may be one of the best national kept secrets. Sorry, you know how it is. Yo, the pad thai was so good and the vibe was so chill that PJ's became my launching base for almost every day after. The first day I was there was the first time I also caught a Thailand downpour. For me, this was really exciting because I actually booked part of my travels to see the rainy season in these places.
Waiting for the rain to stop. I have an umbrella, but the downpour is too strong for my small umbrella to keep me dry. So the owner let me stand here, and then she just told me to sit down because she didn't know how long it would be.
The first night I was in Chiang Mai, I met up with one of the guys from the club experience in Bangkok. He's a nurse living in Chicago, and his travels took him to Chiang Mai a few days before my own, and then he went to Vietnam. We met at the Chiang Mai bazaar the first night, and because it continued to rain throughout the day, once I went back outside later that night, there were parts of the street that were flooded, and there were huge cockroaches scattering across the ground and the walls as I walked by. The walk from where I stayed to the night bazaar took about 20 minutes, and in between that time, a few tut-tuts solicited their driving services along with knowing where to drive me to get a different type of nightclub. But I definitely prefer to walk. Once I arrived on the main street at the night bazaar, I was introduced to a completely different commercialized version of the city in comparison to the sleepy neighborhood that I stayed in and thought represented all of Chiang Mai. Honestly, I liked my neighborhood a lot better. I think there was even a Hard Rock Cafe and a few other chains there. Since June is technically the rainy season and less tourists are there, the street market shops and tut-tuts were lined up on the main road, just waiting for what seemed to be like the seasons to change. The next day, I ended up walking around and finding a good Indian restaurant called Indian Bites in Farango Cafe to get some work done. Funnily, the term Farang is a term that generally refers to foreigners, which I learned in some history lessons from the bike tour operator Sky, who you heard in a previous episode. This particular restaurant had just been taken over 10 days before I arrived by the new owner, Kolpi, from East India, who had just moved there with his family.
What's the name of this place?
It's Farango, Indian Bites, Farango Cafe and Restaurant.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday Market Road.
What made you take this over? Were you just living in Chiang Mai before and wanting to?
No, I'm coming in the second time.
Oh.
First time I'm coming in only 8 days, and I can see all of the restaurants and places, and we will decide. So okay, I'm start this restaurant in Thailand because it's all of the tourist city.
Yeah.
So we are decided I am moving to Thailand.
Got it. And how long have you lived in Thailand now?
I'm now, it's last 10 days.
Oh, wow. That's,
This year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And my brother, it's here in last 15 years.
oh, wow.
And he already now working in diamond factory.
Wow.
In Lafun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I am diamond worker.
Oh, got it.
We have 5 machines of diamond cutting.
Wow.
So we are 3 partners.
Mm-hmm.
So we will decide that one partner will move to Thailand and start the restaurant business.
Yeah.
And 2 partners is standing India.
Wow.
I spent a few hours working under the restaurant's air conditioning and trying some of the delicious Indian dishes that Kolpi was bringing me to sample. From the samosas to the panipuri, they were so good. The next day, I met with another friend, Sandeep, who I met actually on the Bangkok bicycle tour. Sandeep had arrived in Chiang Mai a day or two before me, and we realized we were in the same city after exchanging pictures we took from the bike tour. Sandeep is a CPA from India with dreams of becoming a filmmaker. And the first day we met in Chiang Mai, we visited some local temples. And then we met a few days later to go check out the Bangkok artisan market. On our way to that market, and while Sandeep was in the store trying to get a local sim for the trip, I ran into an older guy from Texas named Bruce. And Bruce had been living in Southeast Asia for over a decade. He suggested that we go check out the Mayrim area as well.
Yeah. No, I was talking to a guy, Bruce. A guy from Texas. Oh. Yeah, he's like lived on and off here for 12 years. Yeah, he was telling me about like there's a road called the Mayrim Road. It's like really, really beautiful to drive. Yeah. Somewhere on the way that they're going now? I don't know.
The Bangkok Walk Market is its own beautiful artisan ecosystem. It's where generations of makers sell their traditional arts and goods. And I stopped in one shop with some extremely stylish clothes and hats, and the store owner was playing such a funky music track called War Dance by, I believe it's called Cabelatrick. I'm guessing you can look it up. And so I had to stop and Shazam it. I ended up stopping to talk to the owner a bit and learned that she and her husband had owned the shop and had plans on expanding soon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And until the 30 June.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Close. You're so close. Yeah.
Because like so the building for new
Got
place.
it. Yeah.
Later.
Got it. That's awesome. Yeah.
After leaving Bangkok Walk, we took Bruce's suggestion and went up to Mayrim, where we spent the rest of the day at the Mayrim Elephant Sanctuary before heading back to town. Sandeep and I met a few days after that ride to go up to the Doi Inthanon National Park, then on his last day in town, where he agreed to have an open convo for the podcast.
Is the podcast name.
Okay.
And so it's just like this like play on words where I'm asking, am I nowhere bounded or or am I nowhere bounded like in opportunities, kind of like the
Yeah.
And so this trip is in some ways like the test of where can I make it.
I think like one particular video which specifically changed the way I look at life in general was there is this thing like where I think it's a YouTube channel where they go about asking people who are very young, like right from a 6-year or a 5-year-old who can think to an 84, 85-year-old about different things. What is happiness to you? Like that. So they were doing a survey amongst only old people, asking them what is the most dominant emotion. After you're retired and you're just nobody gives a shit about you. You're just sitting at home by yourself, and it was regret.
I know.
It is because at that age you're just going to keep reflecting on life.
Absolutely.
Because your children don't want to spend time with you. Your friends are too old to meet so frequently. you spend majority of the time with yourself, and if you've not lived a fulfilling life or the way you wanted, it's going to keep coming back that I had it done that, maybe at this point things would have been different for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
So like one of the themes that I'm kind of like running in this podcast, and at least like the messaging from studying education and public health and whatever else, is that like in some ways, like a lot of people are born into a world in which like there are restrictions, like they're born into, or whatever else, and like the key is to also like, you know, try to navigate those external restrictions, but really what I'm thinking about is like the additional internal restrictions that we keep ourselves trapped into or entangled, saying that we can or cannot do something, or something is too scary, or and so I think like that is also the other part of the key of kind of like trying to step past regret, if possible, is to really answer and approach what we're afraid of, and trying to figure out like how to make that work. So I don't know, do you like, are you a person that like kind of steps into fear? And
So I think like one key habit which can set you on the path that you just talked about, you know, dealing with both internal and external restrictions, is actually journaling. When you journal down, you're actually giving your thoughts a tangible form, because you're writing it down. You just cannot bullshit like the way, like when I think right now, I can think I want to become the president of the US. But can I write it down? No, because I know I'm bullshitting myself. So journaling is very important because, and I think like there are a few questions that you need to always ask yourself. If not, you don't have to do it daily, because it becomes anything that you impose on yourself daily becomes like, you know, work, and then you start hating it. But when are you free? You just need to journal like 10 things you're grateful for at this point.
I like that.
That's one thing. 1 year from now, where you want to be.
I like that.
5 years down the line, where you want to be. And directly at the end of your life, when you look back, what are the things you wish you had done right? These 4 questions, if you actually fill in your journal, because that helps you answer everything that we were just talking about right now. Like when you know 1 year down the line where exactly you want to be, you know what are the internal struggles stopping you, what are the external struggles stopping you. Same thing applies for 5 years. And at the end of your life, when you look back, what exactly, like, you know, different people have different things. Some people want to be like, you know, they want to help the masses. Some people are more like, if I do well for myself, it's fine. Things like that. And the best part is these things can change on a week-to-week basis. It need not be like the same fixed thing. At that point, what you feel. But overall, what you understand is, from all of those writings, when you look back and reflect, there will be one common theme that comes across all of these. That is what you actually want. I do. Because in the small notepad that, I don't know if you saw, but the small notepad that I have, I always journal these things. And that is how I understood that, okay, filmmaking is something that I maybe want to try. Stand-up comedy is something that I maybe want to try.
Totally.
And like also,
how do you hold yourself like to that? In addition to journaling, like, do you give yourself deadlines or like?
So deadlines are very important because I think if you don't have a timeline to something, then it'll forever be a fantasy. The difference between a fantasy and a dream is dreams have a timeline. No, honestly, like whenever I like booked a ticket and I was saying I was going to do this. One, I booked a ticket because so I couldn't turn back. You know. But then also the other part was that like I knew the steps that I needed to take to actually lay some foundation to create like, you know, form a business and blah blah blah. And so I like was doing those steps along the way. And I think my mom asked me, she's like, "Are you afraid or whatever?" I'm just kind of like, you know, if I had not taken these steps to kind of formulate and form a little bit of structure around what I'm doing and just said I was going to do this with no plan. Although it's like I'm very agile in my plan, but if I didn't have any of that, then I was like, people could think I'm crazy, but in some ways, like, no, I have a plan. It's just a matter of will the plan work or not, and that's a completely different question. Do you have anything like you wanna leave with the podcast? Like, I think I would just tell people 3 things.
Oh, okay.
One habit to build for sure is journaling. I wouldn't even endorse meditating because it is something else, but I think journaling is very important. And the second thing is always dream big, bigger than what you think you're made for.
Absolutely.
Because from a very young age, we've been bound by restrictions, right? So You are a lot capable. The difference between people who make it and who don't are that these guys believe that they could actually do that.
Absolutely.
And the third thing is, if you could let go of one emotion, it's just self-pity, because just let it go, because it's not going to do any good for you.
Yeah, I love that.
And we have like always. I remember like when I get into a situation where I have to pity myself, I look at it this way.
Yeah.
What did our ancestors do and what are we doing?
Totally.
They were hunting, they were fighting wars, they were like, every day was survival.
Yeah.
Today we've got everything at our beck and call. You have like the internet, for example. What a powerful tool. Like anything you want to learn, you can learn it on the internet.
Absolutely.
And you have everything at your convenience, and still we have found ways to complain. This is not there, that is not there, I wish I had some, so I think self-pity is the worst. Just let go of it and something big will come out of it.
Those are 3 great insights to leave.
But I think journaling is the key. And those 4 questions. 10 things you're grateful for, because that keeps you grounded and happy. Because the world has been built in a way where we are made to complain, because that's how capitalism works. If you're happy, then you're not going to buy new stuff and they're not going to get their deal. You need to be sad. You need to feel that you don't have enough, and that's when capitalism works. And we work in a world where it's all money. So you need to be like, you need to understand what you're grateful for. That automatically makes you it gives you inner happiness. And the second question is 1 year down the line, 5 years on the line, because it gives you like a solid plan. How to get out of your current situation or make and then definitely by end of your life, when you look back, what are the things that you wish you had done right, or what are the things you wish you lived by?
All right, it is June 19th, 2024. So I'm gonna hit you up on June 19th, 2025.
Perfect.
And then in 5 years.
And then 2029.
And then
I think
your life.
By the end of your life,
well, I'll be watching your films. And I hope you can invite me to some
definitely. I think my first short-term goal is definitely movies. Movies, or at least make it onto some stage. Like it could be like a stand-up, or at least I've done one stand-up role or one short film at least by end of 1 year.
That would be awesome.
And be in those circles somehow. Let's see.
Hey, I'm gonna be looking for it.
I invite you to the first premiere.
So dude, it's been great.
Always.
Thank you.
Man, sure.
This was just the start of my time in Chiang Mai. Stay tuned for the next episode where I take you on a journey where I decide to take a bus even further north to Chiang Rai for a few days. If you like today's podcast, please like it on the platforms that you listen to. It really helps the visibility of a show since I don't pay for advertisement. Share the show with family and friends, follow us on social media at Nowhere Bounded, and consider supporting our Patreon fundraiser. Most importantly, be sure to tune into our next episode, which drops next Friday, July 5th. By then, I'll be in a new country, and honestly, I'll possibly be approaching the tail end of this particular journey. We shall see. Until then, this is Jason, and you're listening to Nowhere Bounded. Safe travels.